Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast, one-stop shop for everyone feeling stuck in their career and who are looking to identify, change, and succeed at their new fulfilling work. I'm your host, Vilma. Let's go. Hi, lovers. Happy Monday. Hope you're well. Hope you're happy. Hope you're enjoying yourselves and enjoying the process of becoming, whatever it may look like for you. Here's the thing. I personally think that the absolute number one secret to happy life is all about learning how to enjoy where you are at right now and give yourself grace, compassion, and build that intimacy with yourself. We talk about building intimacy with our partners, but what about that relationship with ourselves? I feel like, nowadays the online space is so overcrowded with a lot of content on how to grow, how to change, how to improve, how to evolve. And obviously, I'm part of that conversation. And, the intention is usually positive, which is to support us, to hold space for us, to encourage us. Yet, I've also seen how it's very easy to use all of this information and this content and advice against ourselves. How easy it is to fall into that pattern of shaming ourselves or get stuck in this continuous loop of healing and trying to fix all that is less than, all that is wrong about us. Thing is, if we develop a habit of celebrating all of the bouquet of healed and fucked up that we are right now in this moment, it really does not matter how much more healing we will do. It will never be enough. It's kind of like, with tattoos or some even say with plastic surgery. It seems like you just can't stop and it's never enough. And I've seen the same thing with healing. People get stuck with, this is what I need to heal. I need to heal my childhood trauma. I need to heal this habit. I need to build this, and that. And there's no end to it. And people don't seem to stop and enjoy themselves even for one moment. So this is my invitation to all of you and to myself as I say that, to cultivate that ability to stop and enjoy this version of yourself that you are right now listening to this. Right? This person, the way you are, the person that you see in the reflection in the mirror is a unique snapshot of you, a snapshot you will never be again. Because we're changed daily with every new experience, with every new situation, with every sentence that we read. We evolve continuously. And right now, you're the most unique you that you will ever be. And then the next moment, you will be a different unique you. Still you, but a different version of you, a different snapshot of you. And this moment right now is not worse off, is not less than that next moment that we seem to continuously forever be reaching for, thinking, oh, this is where, my happiness lies. When I change the career, when I do this, when I get the relationship. But why not celebrate and appreciate and accept all that you are right now? You've been through so much. You've already achieved so much. Healing or not, perfect here or not, career of alignment or not. What about now? What about the version of you right now? How much appreciation and celebration do you give to this version of you? And I feel like once we get really solid here in our ability to ground ourselves and enjoy where we're at, that's when we can relax into life. That's when we can reclaim the independence. And that's when we can almost I imagine this is hover above being the victim of life circumstances. Honestly, I really think that's the number one freedom that we can achieve. I remember back in the day, when I still used to feel like I was the victim of my life, I was the victim of my day. I'd get up and I'd hope that the day would be good. So, I'd be hoping that there would not be too many people at the tube. Rush hours in London, I'm sure in any big metropolis are brutal. So I would just get up and be like, oh, I hope there's, not a lot of people so that my mood doesn't get spoiled. And then I'd expect that, no one would spoil my mood at work. I would be constantly hoping hoping, expecting, and that can only lead to disappointment because we cannot control our outer environment. And I literally had no agency over my life. Yet imagine having that autonomy, being able to observe all that is happening around you without becoming one with it. Being able to create that space and choose how to respond, choose how to react, choose what to think, and consequently, how to feel about this circumstance, how to feel about this situation, how to feel about this person and what he or she is saying to you right now. You know, that essentially is also, the main goal of coaching, which is expanding our awareness to the point where we don't just drop into automatic trauma or nervous system response where, with time, we can even notice a limiting belief or a complex taking over and then say to ourselves and to that limiting belief, I see you. And while I feel the temptation to go towards the familiar, I will not. I will choose to do this or that. I will choose to say this or that. Whatever it is that is in alignment with myself right now and with the future that I'm trying to create. That is having autonomy in our life. That is steering away from the state of powerlessness, which energetically speaking is the lowest frequency us as humans can feel. And actually, we do not even have the capacity to stay in powerlessness for an extended period of time. Because when we do, that's when we are prone to fall into, chronic depression. And then there's this dance, with a deep sense of pointlessness. The dangerous grounds if we stay in the powerlessness for a longer period of time. So again, it's all about accepting what is, cultivating that sacred pause, and rewriting our automatic response systems, and allowing that internal observer to grow and have more and more influence on how we think and feel. Okay, that was my ranty intro. I just got really excited and got carried away. I feel like whenever I speak about these things, and I already mentioned that even in this recording, it's not just a reminder for you. It's also a reminder for myself, because we all are faulty of having this one state, which is we all have this human condition, and we all have this primal brain that sometimes takes over and steers our life, right? And so there are moments in time where I invite everyone to stop and examine and check in what actually is going on, because it's so easy to fall into the autopilot mode and then wake up 3 years later and be like, what happened? Is this my life? Right? So, speaking of which, today I'd like to talk to you about something that has been coming up for almost every single career changer that I've ever worked with, which is how to explain your career change move to your friends and family and colleagues and all those nosy acquaintances. We all have them that you will inevitably meet, and they will inevitably ask you, what are you doing, right? So wherever you are, whether you are switching career full-time, whether you already quit your previous employment, or if you're working on a side hustle, no matter how you will do it, it will always raise question marks in those around you. And I really often spend quite some time with my clients on crystallizing what we call their career change story for themselves in the first place, and then for the others, so that they could work it into a coherent answer that they could offer to those who ask them about, what are you doing with your life right now? So we really work on preparing how to explain why they're choosing to do this, especially if they're leaving an allegedly quote unquote safe position in an industry that pays well, right? That will always raise eyebrows. People will be confused. And then also how to honor their own truth, have their own back, yet respond to people with respect. But at the same time, if they don't feel ready to speak about it, how to give an answer that is clear and succinct and doesn't invite follow-up questions. Because when we're in the limbo state where everything is uncertain, we do not want to sit there and explain ourselves to people that we don't have, an energetic, emotional contract with, where we don't feel like we own answers. It's very easy to get defensive. So In one of the episodes, I don't recall which one it was, I shared a rather elaborate example of you say picking up gardening, which is the same as you starting, checking out a new career, and then everyone in your environment offering you their unsolicited opinions and advice to the point where it may even leave you very discouraged and demotivated to continue, and would really rob you of the joy of exploring and trying things out. And for one reason or another, it has just become a cultural norm in many countries to ask about work. It usually goes like, how are you? How's your partner? Insert the name. How's Mary? And how's work? We always get that question. We can fight it, we can hate it, but we will always be getting that question. So how do we remain respectful, remain polite, and yet protective of this really beautiful phase of your life? And if you don't spend some time answering to the questions that I'm going to share with you today, then depending on your default stress response, you may actually end up going in, say, fight mode, which is get defensive, aggressive, and give a short answer along the lines of none of your business, which will make everyone feel uncomfortable. Or you may go into freeze mode, that whenever people ask you about work and you're uncertain, you're not sure, you're in transition, you may be unable to answer the question, which will later make you feel inadequate or like you're doing things wrong. Or you may go into fawn, and if someone asks and offers opinion along the lines of, oh, is it really smart to make a change in this economy? You may just end up agreeing with them and saying, oh my God, you're right, I'm not even sure what I'm doing. All of which, doesn't matter which reaction you have, which default system you have when your nervous system perceives something as threat, all of this will put unnecessary pressure on your career change process. And we want to avoid it. My job is to help you protect this beautiful phase of your life. So spending some time crafting your very own career change story is very valid prep work. I'd invite you all to take this on. So you don't have to stumble upon words, you don't have to over-explain, you don't have to start dreading or even avoiding meeting people, which I know happens to a lot of career changers where they just like literally stop all of the social interaction, COVID or not, in the fear that people will start asking them about their work situation and about their future plans. Sounds dramatic, but I've seen it happen through and through. And by the way, I'm not inviting you to be inauthentic or have like strategic, super premeditated answers that are fake. By no means at all. I will never offer this to you. What I am suggesting is that this work, the change, the transition that you're going through or about to go through is new. There's a lot of uncertainty and you will be easily swayed. So if you can prepare for this inevitable tide of questions that you are going to receive, you will be essentially having your own back and you will be more supportive of yourself, which I think all of us need to practice a little bit more every single day. I want you to think about it like this. Having a clear, coherent, and compelling narrative when changing careers is like a thread that ties all of our choices and actions together and provides this fundamental framework with which we can explain who we are, where we've been, and where we're going with our transition. And putting the story together is what will firstly make you feel more confident in your move, and it will also help others understand you and your motives better. It will also put them at ease around you because people have this tendency to get a little uneasy around those they cannot understand. If they cannot easily pigeonhole you, they get uncomfortable around you, you, so to speak, become unsafe for them because you just cannot be neatly filed under one profession like, oh, she's an accountant, oh, this is a marketing manager. You become very uncomfortable for them. And this is especially true if you are launching your own business, because in order to invest in you, people will need to know, they'll need to like, and they'll need to trust you. And any confusion they may have about you or your career change story may convolute the buying decision, right? May distract them. If they have unanswered questions, they will not feel safe to buy from you, whatever it is you're selling, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, doesn't matter. They need to like, trust and they need to understand you. So what I want you to do now is to take out your notebook and your pen and work with me through answering some questions to guide you in crafting your own authentic career change story. I will also, by the way, upload the worksheet with all the questions that you'll be able to download, but also don't depend on that. And I want you to also just frame this in a way and write this in a way that works for you. Like, work with your own system and with your own guidance. You need to find the way to understand what works the best for you, what is the most conducive to get the answers for you. Okay? By the way, initially when answering to these questions, you may get a lot of material, a lot of volume. Like they could be like quite a few lines of answers to each of these questions. Don't worry about it at first. You will be able to streamline it a little bit later into almost like a few sentence elevator pitch. And I'll give you an example of that. So don't worry about it for now. If you get a lengthy response, just let it come. And it's always better to have more material to work with than just answer very short sentences and then wonder how to put them all together into a story that makes sense. Also, you will be able to repurpose this content in your written communication, verbal introductions, anywhere you really feel like you need to share your story. Okay? Okay. If you're ready, you can stop, you can pause me, get your pen and paper, and then we're going to go into the couple of questions that I have prepared for you. And first, I'd like to start with looking at the past, glancing at what happened up until this moment you're in right now. So we need to look at the circumstances and the environment and certain character traits that you had. Okay? So the first question I want you to answer is, who were you in the past growing up, especially in your teenage years? What did it feel like living in your skin? Whatever comes, write it down, okay? Stop the recording if you need to so you could answer this question. The next question I want you to answer is, how did you find yourself on a career path that you're in right now? Whatever it is that you're doing, if you're feeling unfulfilled in it, I want you to remember the beginning of it. Did you choose to study it? How did you do that? Did you fall into it? Write it all down. Question number 3. What was and what wasn't working for you in this chosen career path that you're in right now? Not only do I want you to think about what's not working, which we're very good at, but also think about what is working for you. And number 4, what were the symptoms showing that you might have chosen the wrong career path? Are there any symptoms that are showing you that you might be in the wrong career path after all? And was there one moment when it truly hit you that something has to change? If there was one moment, one pivotal moment, I want you to describe that. So these are the 4 questions about your past. Take your sweet time answering to these questions. Take a few deep breaths if you need to. Calm down, connect to your body, like ground yourself. If you need to, what helps me is imagining this calming aquamarine light ascending upon me, like washing over me, calming me down, because you want the answers to come from the core of you, from the seat of your soul, versus your brain offering you these well-rehearsed, easy to access, familiar responses. We want the truth here, your truth. And once you've answered to these 4 questions, I'd like you to then shift your focus towards the transition moment that you might have already experienced. If you're a bit further along your career change journey, or perhaps you're about to experience this, doesn't matter. It was still very useful for you to answer to these questions. So the first one that I want you to answer about the transition moment is, what has always been in your life and what still is consistent and true throughout beyond and despite the current state of change? What has always been, quote unquote, a thing in your life? For instance, could there be one subject area you have always found yourself drawn to? Like, for instance, it was psychology for me. Are there any particular places that you always find yourself visiting? Is there a type of people that you'd reach for counsel to, or you are attracted to, or you are interested in? What has remained consistent for you? Second question I want you to answer is, what have you always stood for and believed in? What pains you deeply when it comes to the world and the human condition? So this one is the value question. What is it that pains you and motivates you for change at the same time? For me, it has always been around the topic of people living authentic lives, as long as I can remember myself. I remember when I was back in the corporate, once I had to fix my watch, and I found this tiny watch repair shop. And I was served by this little lady who had been fixing watches for what seemed like forever. She was so knowledgeable. And as I was waiting for my turn, I observed her. And I was watching and listening to how she was serving a customer before me. And she held his watch as if it was the most precious, expensive jewel. She touched it gently with so much love and respect. She walked him through all of the possible options of fixing it. She explained which option would work the best. She shared the price of each option. She asked him very specific, educated questions about the watch. She asked how this customer was wearing it. And she did it all with such grace and love and professionalism and excitement. And up until this day, I recall her. She was one of the most magnetizing people I have ever encountered because she loved her job. Her job was her and her was her job. Like, she was one with it. And she went the extra mile. She loved people she was serving. She loved the service she was providing. She had this light and energy around her that people would linger around her for much longer than they really needed to. And I looked at her and I told myself, I'm going to do whatever it takes so I could experience this. Whatever voodoo magic she was on, I wanted that in my life too. I said, I want that. I want to shine. I want to serve. I want to enjoy every minute of it. And then I also realized this was one of my favorite topics ever. People having found fulfillment. And it would pain me when I would find people or see people unhappy, suffering when they didn't have meaning in their lives. And it would excite me when I'd come across shining examples like this little lady. So what pains you and energizes you at the same time? The next question I want you to answer is, was there one moment where you realized you could not live that current existence anymore? What did you discover or realize that changed your reality? How did that feel? Did you have a similar example like I just shared with that little watch repair lady? Was there a moment when you said, you know what, enough? And another question from this transition section that I want you to answer to is, how changing careers right now makes perfect sense for you? How all of your life experiences were preparing you for this moment and shaping you into the person and the professional that you are today. How is this the perfect time for you to change right now? And after you've answered to these 4 questions, I then would like to invite you to look at the present moment and look at the future, okay? So I then want you to answer, what is it that you know now that you didn't know or did not embody before? What is the new knowledge that you live right now that has become so evident for you that you cannot ignore it anymore? The second question is, what aspects of your professional and personal journey would you consider unique? heads up, this is a question where people struggle because we tend to not see ourselves as unique. We just think that we just take our experiences for granted, but they're not. If you just take the time to compare your story, both professionally and personally, with that of your friends or your family, you'd see just how freaking unique you are. So I want you to ask your brain to give those examples and to list what aspects of your journey would you consider unique. The third question from your present and future is, what differentiates you from others who do similar work? So say you want to transition into calligraphy. What would differentiate you from other people who are doing this work? If your answer is, I don't know, again, then ask yourself, what would the answer be if I did know the answer? What would the answer be if I knew? Okay? And the final one from this section of present and future is, what's the main healing message I want to share with the world, and what's the main change I'd like to contribute to in the world? What's the main message I want to share with the world, and what's the main change I'd like to contribute to in the world? Now, once you have answers to these questions, I want you to add them all up and put your career change journey story together in a coherent narrative. I personally am a fan of the linear approach, where you share a little bit about your past, you describe that breaking point, and then you share what you are transitioning into and why this field and why now. This will serve you as a template for answering the questions moving forward, so that you would feel confident in being able to meet whoever you need to meet, bump into the street with whoever you do, and give them an answer that would make them, and most importantly you, feel good about it. Don't overthink it, by the way. This is your very first draft, which you'll be able to adjust later on and change, however you think will be needed. And when you have that narrative, then I'd like you to read it through a couple of times and try to condense it into 3 or 4 sentences you can use moving forward when someone will be inquiring you about your career change direction and your motives, your why. For example, I'm going to give you an example, so maybe, it will help you a little bit. Whenever I used to be asked about my career switch, I would say something along the lines of, I'm in the process of a career change, and even though I had worked in corporate for nearly a decade, from very early on, I knew this was not providing me with meaning and fulfillment that I've always been after. I've always been drawn to human psychology and analysis and esoteric world, and this is what fascinates me and excites me, especially around the theme of creating a life and career of authenticity and alignment and purpose. And because I have experienced firsthand how much suffering the wrong career choice can cause, I'm currently studying for my coaching certification, and I'm planning to complete my switch once I get certified. As you can see, it's short and sweet, literally 4 sentences, or pretty long sentences. Okay, I like long sentences, but it also covers the basics, right? I mentioned what I used to do. I mentioned that it wasn't fulfilling. I mentioned that the meaning is what I crave for. This is one of my core values. I share that I've been drawn to this specific subject of psychology, and I also tell them how I'm going to use it to contribute to solving a topic that pains me personally, and what will be the means or the container of me doing so, which is coaching. So I answer to the main questions of what and why and how. And it doesn't give too much detail either, yet it's concise enough that I would not often get any of those dreaded follow-up questions, right? People, usually after I shared this, like along the lines of this, it doesn't have to be word to word, but I would share something like this, people will be like, oh, cool, great. Or then it would also open up in their sharing. And a lot of the times after I shared this, what I would get in return would be like, oh, wow, like, that's so brave of you. I'm not really fulfilled in my career either. Can you share about your process more? So then they're coming from such a different energy and such a different place. It allows them to then open up to share. It makes them feel safer around you because you're being honest, open, but you're not oversharing. So that also protects you and protects your energy and doesn't open you up for judgment or opinions, right? So now try to streamline your story and remember there are no right or wrong ways to do this. This is your story and you choose how much to disclose. There's a difference between secrecy and privacy, and perhaps I have already shared about this. I have really bad memory. I don't record what I share. Sometimes I feel like I need to re-listen to my episodes so I wouldn't be like a broken record. But there's a difference between secrecy and privacy. If you choose not to share certain details of your journey, it doesn't mean you're being secretive or unwilling to let anyone in. It's a matter of you being private. And we all have a right to keep certain details private. Also, notice yourself when you're answering to these questions. Did the answers flow with ease or did you struggle? If you are struggling to answer this, I'd like to offer you to go back to a drawing board and ask yourself whether the career that you're considering transitioning into really is your purpose and really is your life's work and will bring you meaning. There's this pitfall that a lot of the times we are not thinking out of the box, and perhaps the career that you're considering would make sense for you on paper, given your experience and education, but it may not be a career or business of purpose. When you are switching to the work of meaning, your answers probably will come pretty easy and will be pretty apparent for you. And I really hope you remember to have fun with this process. Please remain curious, loving, and non-judgmental. This is the work you do for you, okay? For your own good. Listen to yourself as if you are listening to your child telling you about their day. You'd be careful, you'd be gentle, you'd be curious, loving, and you'd be present with them. Give yourself that gift of presence. And as always, can't wait for you to share with me what you have uncovered doing this work. I'm wishing you all a fabulous week. And I'll speak to you next Monday. Bye-bye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you're finding this content valuable, please subscribe and leave a review. And if you'd like to take this work further, schedule a first call so we could mastermind together on how to get your career and your life back on track. Can't wait to meet you.